Kendall. We've
Hi,
got a
guys.
special guest today. Yeah. Tell us a bit about yourself, Kendall.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Nice to, be able to see you all. It's all a bit different doing it over Zoom these days, getting used to it. So I'm an exercise physiologist. I work at Ballarat Health Services. So my role is to provide exercise programs and monitor them to help people manage injury, chronic disease, or just for their physical and mental well-being. So super excited to have a chat to you guys today. So I've got a little bit of stuff that I want to cover, but if you guys want to ask any questions or you want to jump in, please feel free to do so as we go. Just make it as interactive as possible. Is this your first time you've had to do this over Zoom?
Exercise, yes, but we've been doing these Zoom meetings with this group. This is probably our fourth one, hey, Robert?
Yep.
Yeah, a while now.
Yeah. So,
how are you all finding using Zoom? It's a bit different, isn't it?
No, not really. I think this is good,
Yeah.
Yeah, you go, Robert. You finish.
I just think it's an excellent, I think the people, Peter and Kelly and Naz, it's been one, I think it's a better idea.
So,
Yeah, some.
Get hold of people.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Oh, no, I have to, I think, well, you know what I think, but, this is the best thing since sliced bread, basically, because, from where I normally reside in far western Victoria, the tyranny of distance has always been a disincentive to actually partake in the Ballarat sessions, and suddenly this pops up, and I can do that. It's fantastic. So really embracing it.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Brian, of the Zoom meeting platform?
Oh no, it keeps us active and talking about what we've got ahead and what we've been doing. So it doesn't shut the gate. That's the good thing about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, even for myself today, Kendall, I'm not a person that usually would engage in any exercise because I'm a higher quad, but here I am today, engaged with you and going to learn more about it and open up and broaden my horizon a bit towards those sort of views. And I usually wouldn't, but because isolation is probably more so now with COVID going on and having opportunities to do Zoom, you get new things put in front of you, so this is one of them.
Yeah.
So we do this with about 7 different regions throughout Victoria, and this is the first time we've done exercise. We want to speak about it with other groups, but it wasn't that interesting, and maybe people don't relay or think about exercise and Zooming at the same time. It's just something that may not get together, but then we start to YouTube and we found lots of exercise programs. My wife actually does like a working out, a bit of a, what would you call it? Online thing where she works out.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Every day with Paula B, she calls it.
Oh, yeah.
And she loves it. She comes up puffing and says, that was a good one. I go,
Awesome.
Yeah. So, it works, and it's another platform for doing something else.
Yeah, for sure.
So, do you engage in much exercise? Well,
Well, I've been I've made a recent reach out to an EP actually, and through the West Wimmera Health Service up at Nil and Caniva, and so I've been so far. I'm about 3 weeks into a program that she developed for me specifically. She wanted to, well, I was, when I told her some of the things that I wanted addressed, she was able to tailor, a program involving stepping and also using the what are those called? Those red lacquer bands, that red rubber stuff, and so it's not onerous. It's certainly up to myself to remember and do my exercises. And the program at the moment is going okay. And she checks in. We had a chat yesterday by phone. We just have a quick chat every week at the moment because now I'm over the border. I'm not about to cross back over there because I don't want to do the 2 weeks isolation thing in a hurry. But so we keep in touch that way, and that's all good so far. Yeah, and looking forward to. I think because I was able to get her to. Like some of the challenges that I've got in terms of my like problems with me proprioception in my feet and stuff. So she's trying to work on some of that stuff, and that's I'd really like to. Well, I'm a bit hopeful that something might come out of that in terms of better sensory sort of perception in my feet and my ankles and stuff.
Okay. Well, so that's good. It's a new area to look into. How about you, Brian? Do you get into much exercise? You push around and fairly active, or?
Yeah, I try and put the motor away and go down to the supermarket and back. Maybe once a week. There's a few blocks. I'm not good at it. And also, I got a crook shoulder muscle, and physio gave me some exercise for that. So I've been lifting weights and that because I get night pain with the damn thing, but you've got to put up with the pain and just keep plonking on. So a bit of that, and yeah, I've got those blue stretch straps and whatever. But I'm not good at it, but I do it just to rub it in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And Robert, I know exercise is a big part of your life, and it's really helped you a lot and maintains your ability to walk around. And tell us a bit about that.
In coronavirus part, when they closed the gym down, I used to get up in the morning at 5 and then go down to the local netball court, and I used to have my earphones, and I used to do 2K there and back for an hour. And when it's raining, I just go into the lounge room and use my walker and lift up and do different stretches and things like that. But now the pool's open. I go down there 5 days a week, and I get about 55 minutes of walking up and down the pool. I've done this all my life, and I just think if I let it go, I'm going to lose my legs, and I'm not keen on losing my legs. And so it's an incentive to get up here every morning to do something, whether it's, I listen to, wake up about 20 to 5, listen to Trevor Chappell, who's fantastic, hear the financial report, and then I tootle down on the scooter down to the pool. Unless it's -3 or something, Ballarat is fine.
Excellent, yeah. Well, I'm like a lot higher in my injury level. I'm a C4-5, and I sort of, not that I exercise a lot, but I do more stretching. So, every night I do my upper limbs with my carer before I go to bed, stretch out, and then do exercises just to keep me fluid and maintained. And then of a morning, I get my coach to stretch my legs, and that's stretch my calves, move my ankles around, stretch my hamstrings. And I tell you, that gives me a lot of help with spasm. Knocks it right down, and I don't get as much spasm. And I'll give you an example. When I go away for holidays now and then, I won't do that type of routine. I'll stop it while I'm on holidays because I often take other carers or whatever that might be. So I don't go through those exercise regimes or stretching regimes. And by the end of my week that I'm off, my spasms are a lot higher. I get home and then start my stretching again. It starts to settle down again. Yeah, so it maintains and helps me a lot. Yeah. So that's a form of exercise or stretching. Yeah.
What about you, Kelly? What do you do?
I do a lot of dance now. I used to attend dance classes starting at the start of the year, but with the restrictions, I had to find different ways to dance. So there's a game called Just Dance where you follow what's over on the screen.
Oh, well done. Good on you.
My motivation. And I also do online dance classes as well.
Oh, okay. Well done.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start off by just explaining a little bit about what I do for those of you who don't know. And then I thought we'd just have a bit of a chat about, exercise in general, and just some tips for staying active, staying healthy. And I guess one of the important things to note is that when I say exercise, just any body movement in general, whether that's yourself stretching your own muscles or someone helping you do that for you, this is all comes under that exercise umbrella. So just getting your body to move in any way that it can. So we'll chat a little bit about some tips to stay active and keep that motivation levels high, because it is hard even in winter. We'll chat a little bit about things to be mindful of, just to make sure that you're safe while you're doing so. We'll have a bit of a talk about keeping your shoulders healthy, particularly as you get older. A little bit about some services that are available for you guys to join if you'd like to. And then if you've got any questions or there's anything else you want to know, please jump in as we go. Feel free to do that. So I guess, what is an exercise physiologist? That's a burning question. So my role is to work with people, giving them exercise programs to assist chronic disease, injury, or just their general mental and physical well-being. EPs work in lots of different settings, so you can find us in hospitals, private practice, but also just community settings as well. And our role will vary slightly depending on whereabouts we are working. So I guess a lot of people ask, what's the difference between an EP and a physio? EP is quite a new field, like it's been around for years and years, but I think particularly the last 5 or 6, it's becoming a lot more known. And I guess the main difference is physios are trained to diagnose injuries and manage injury through lots of different techniques. They use a combination of exercise with massage and other manual manipulation techniques, so dry needling, pressure point release, things like that. Whereas EP's only focus is exercise and movement. So that's the primary treatment form for us. So I thought we'd just have a little bit of a chat about, so it looks like you guys are all doing some form of physical activity already, which is really good. So just some general things to be aware of, and I guess sometimes, particularly in winter, if you're not really a keen exerciser anyway, it can be really hard to keep that up. So sometimes knowing why you're doing it or why we should be doing it is a really helpful way to keep that motivation levels high. So just in terms of, things to be aware of as we age for anybody, not just people with spinal cord injury, is things like physical deconditioning. So our muscles as we get older we lose strength and endurance, so your ability to do a task over a prolonged period of time. And we also tend to lose our cardiorespiratory fitness, so the ability of your heart muscle to pump blood effectively in a way that can keep you doing the things you need and want to do without getting short of breath and feeling lightheaded and things like this. So this all happens in people in the general population unless they're doing something to overcome it, such as some form of exercise program. So I guess we all know there's a million reasons why we should exercise. Guys, can you throw some at me? What are the benefits of exercise?
I was saying, listening to a podcast, that the more that you exercise, and as you get older, it becomes easier, and you don't have the same problems if you don't exercise at all.
Yep. Good one.
Yeah. I think motivation is really good for your motivation.
Yep.
Just keeping bright and happier, and just being. I think it helps a lot with that type of thing.
Yep. Anything else?
I think also socially, that's another big thing, isn't it? Like when I go down the pool in the morning, there's always people to talk to, and I just see sometimes people, particularly if you're on your own, it must be a very difficult thing. Okay, you can exercise, but the social aspect is a very important part.
Definitely.
Yeah. I like the idea of the dancing. I think that's just marvellous.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I think that it's terrific. When I was at school, when I was teaching kids at school, one of the things the kids used to love more than anything else, they used to say, "Mr. Scott, we're not doing dancing today, are we?" So, you know, I reckon that's one of the biggest aspects of meeting other people as well.
Yep. The social aspect to it is massive. And look, for some people, that's the only reason why they do it. But the benefit of that for your mental health is massive. You know, if you, not only does, you know, I guess the exercise itself reduce the likelihood of, you know, feelings of depression and increasing your mental well-being, but just being around other people definitely makes you feel a bit better about it too. So I guess, you know, in terms of physical, really good for weight management, which is particularly important, especially if you're not weight bearing. You know, we look at things like increased independence, so being able to do, you know, as much of your self-care as you independently can. Fitness and strength is massive. You know, the fitter you feel, the more you feel like you can do in a day, even if it's just, you know, having the energy to be connected to people via Zoom and meetings like this. You know, it's all really good for your physical and your mental well-being.
I think sleeping's another thing, you know, like if you go up and exercise, it has to be easier as you get older to sleep if you over-exercise. So, you know, I think that's an important thing. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So you guys have all pointed out lots of reasons why we should exercise. And I guess we know all the reasons why we should, but despite this, often we don't do it or we don't do enough of it. Do you guys have any, I guess, barriers or things that stop you from doing your exercise? Might be the weather.
What about you, Naz? How do you find it all?
Things that stop me, there's quite a motivation is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Getting going. Once you make that first move, then it's all good, but it's getting to that stage where you just say, I'm going to go and do it. I think it's good knowing how you feel before you do something. So if you're holding yourself back or haven't got the motivation, you know, I try to think about, okay, how do I feel when I'm doing something? And it's fantastic. It's really good. So it's just having that picture in my mind and getting stuck into it.
Beautiful.
For me, probably what holds me back is my strength, because I don't have much strength and can't really participate in much sort of fun exercise. Exercising is pretty boring, but I suppose once you start doing that, you just got to use your imagination and do it in different places, or, you know, take on different things and look for that stimulation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Beautiful. Anyone else? Anything that you feel stops you from being more active? It might be just not knowing what to do, or just don't want to.
What about you, Brian? Can you get this time? Like when we go down and do that, I find it's marvellous when we go down doing that sailing, you know, to catch up with people like yourself. You know, you seem to have a lot of energy and things like that.
Yeah, I enjoy that. I mean, lawn bowls is what I enjoy during the summertime, and whilst it's probably not a lot of exercise, I mean, you do about 40 laps of a bowling green, but you're not overdoing it. But I guess the thing you got to watch is that you don't only use the same muscles all the time pushing a wheelchair. You need some exercise which strengthen other muscles and give other muscles action, because you can end up with pain with overdoing it.
Yeah.
And what about a barrier, Brian? Is your shoulder a barrier? Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a barrier, but it's just it's a damn nuisance, because you lose sleep. And I saw it. I went and saw a physio, and I've had 2 lots of cortisone, I think it was, and the last lot didn't seem to make much difference. But that I've got a damaged tendon, and his conclusion was I've just got to strengthen the tendon so the weaker bit is bypassed, and that does mean lifting weights to do it. And I don't enjoy doing it. I've never been a gym junkie as such. I played basketball and active team sports, but this gym stuff's pretty boring as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for everyone.
Does it put you through more pain building that tendon up?
Oh, at night time, yeah. I mean, you've got to do it. And I'm not, I forget sometimes, but it does create pain at night time. But whether I do it or not, I've got the pain. It doesn't make any difference. It hasn't gone away.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. It's a very fine line between, I guess, finding some activities that hopefully you can enjoy, but not, as you said, Brian, using the same muscles over and over to the point where your muscles are overworked and it's actually had the opposite effect, and you feel like you can't do as much. Yeah.
Hang on, Brian. I'm really interested to know what that noise is coming from. Have you run over a duck or something?
One of Robert's mates. It's a galah. He's like me after 2 bottles of red. He talks a bit. Yeah.
Did anyone else have any other things to add to that before we move on?
I really do think that if you're having motivation with other people, and if you can do something, it just seems to me a lot easier than doing it on your own. Loneliness. What's the biggest problem in Ballarat? Loneliness. And before you get to the stage and say, "Oh no, I can't be bothered." If I didn't have my wife, I'd find it would be very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I admire Brian the way how he has to go and do all these things. Very hard.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, there's that many people out there that like us that don't get involved in things. And I mean, I'm not bragging, but I'm the only one that plays lawn bowls in Ballarat. The whole of Ballarat is in a wheelchair. And even the younger people, I don't know what they do, but there's plenty of people out there, as you know, Kendall, plenty of people out there with disabilities. I suspect, not being nasty, that the carers aren't very creative in terms of following their client, and that's what they should be doing, into activity rather than thinking they're in charge of the client.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it can be a challenge, but I guess, there is just something out there that absolutely everyone can do. And sometimes it is just a matter of getting really creative and, finding things that person can enjoy to keep them well. I think one positive that's come out of all this COVID-19 is that we do have so many more options now, such as what we're doing now. I had never done this 3 months ago, and it's just allowed us to reach such a wider population. We've had a lot of people say, they don't like going to gyms, but they don't like doing things on their own. And, it's all about that social aspect of things. Whereas now, we've been forced to look at other ways of delivering a service that doesn't involve face-to-face contact, so that now we are able to set up platforms such as this where, we can have someone teaching some exercise and everyone doing it. You're apart, but you're together, if that makes sense. So you've got the support, and it's just a motivation to be a part of something and to get your body moving in any way that you can. So I thought we'd just have a little bit of a chat about some things to be mindful of when you are exercising. I guess the important thing is to just be mindful of your limits, knowing what you can do and how, your baseline level of fitness. I think a really big thing for people with spinal cord injury is blood pressure regulation. So quite often when you guys exercise, your blood pressure can drop quite low while you're moving. And this is just because your blood isn't pooling back up to your heart from your legs as well as it normally should. And this can manifest in, you might feel a bit dizzy, you might feel a bit queasy, or just generally feeling not quite right. I guess the main thing to be aware of, if you've found this to happen for you in the past, not to let that be a reason, not to be active. Definitely have a chat with your GP or whoever your main, go-to health professional is, because sometimes it can be simple solutions, medications, it can sometimes be compression garments, things like that, that can just assist with how your body's reacting to the exercise and then how much you're able to tolerate. And I guess too, if you haven't exercised before or haven't done much before, is when you do start, just do it slowly. Make sure that you feel okay afterwards, and then you can just really gradually, as you get to know your body and how well you can cope with the exercise, you can gradually start to increase it. Has anyone found any, you've had any symptoms of dizziness, lightheadedness, or other physical things not feeling quite good when you exercise?
Yeah, myself, yeah.
Yeah.
When I get my heart rate up,
yeah,
sometimes. But I'm used to it, I know what it is. And I can tilt my chair or it passes quickly. Yeah.
Yep. Good. Yeah, and a lot of the time it's just getting to know your body and know your triggers and how to respond to them as well. I guess the other thing is temperature and heart rate. I guess depending on the level of your injury, particularly at level T6 or above, your heart rate and temperature may not increase as you're exercising harder, and it normally would. So it can be quite difficult to gauge how difficult you are working. So we just have some strategies around that don't involve heart rate and numbers. So it's called the talk test. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so we're going to chat a bit about exercise guidelines in a moment, but basically what we try and encourage is everyone to be able to do some form of moderate activity. And how we know that is not by heart rates, blood pressure, anything like that. Whichever movement you're doing, whether it be stretching, some arm exercises, pushing your chair, we want you to do some form of activity some days of the week that gets your heart rate and your blood pressure, your breathing rate up to the point where you can still have a conversation. So you shouldn't be gasping for air, but you would not be able to sing a song. It's a fun little test if you're not a very good singer, to see if you can be singing that song while you're lifting your weights. If so, might just be, maybe we can do a little bit more of them, maybe you can lift a little bit heavier, just things like that. It's just a really easy way to gauge how much activity you're getting in. Is anyone singing while they're doing their exercises?
Cleaning my hands when I'm washing my hands up to go to the loo.
That's a good way to count it. But yeah, that is a good, indicator. I never thought of that before, but I'll definitely do it next time I exercise. At a good enough intensity.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring up, I'm just going to share my screen.
I've always been taught to sort of think about your heart rate and raise it by about 50 to 60% while you exercise.
Yep.
Is that a good way of thinking about it as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you monitor your heart rate or?
No, I sort of got an idea, I know.
Yeah.
Back from when I used to train a lot prior to my injury.
Yep.
And I sort of always thought it was ineffective. Training is not effective, or exercise is not effective when your heart rate is above 80% or more. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're saying is right. You wouldn't want to be going too much over that 50 to 60%, and the amount of the amount over that we need to go for general health benefits actually isn't that much. So yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, if that works for you. I'm just going to share my screen, guys. Just having a look. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
So just going to bring up some exercise guidelines. Now, how do I make that full screen? Okay. So I guess exercise guidelines, like for everyone, any movement, and even if that's passive stretching, is better than none. Okay, so some form of exercise and movement should ideally be part of your daily routine. So it's recommended that we include both strengthening, so your weights, in addition to some form of cardiovascular activity. So something that's going to get your heart rate up and your breathing rate up for a little bit. Okay, so when we talk about strength, lots and lots of ways you can do this. There is so much cool equipment out there now. Kmart, Big W, all those kind of cheap shops have really cool equipment. A lot of them can be modified depending, you know, if you're finding you don't have grip strength and things like that. So you really don't need fancy equipment. You don't have to go to a gym if that's not what you're into. There's lots of equipment out there available that you can exercise in the comfort of your own home, you know, or if you're doing telehealth sessions with your EP or your physio. So I've just got some common ones here. So there's some wrist and ankle weights, some TheraBands, some dumbbells. And what we're looking for ideally is that you can do 2 to 3 sessions a week incorporating these weight exercises. Now, the guidelines are just a guide, okay? So that's not to say if you've been doing none that tomorrow you should go out and start your 3 sessions a week. It's all about just creating a habit. So, you know, if motivation's an issue or this isn't something you've done before, just start with once a week and see how you feel. And like you guys touched on earlier, most of the time doing a bit of movement and exercise does make you feel a bit better. You know, it increases your blood flow to your brain, makes you feel a bit more energized. So often, you know, once a week will turn into twice a week. The hardest part is just that first session. Once you've started, it tends to not be as hard after that.
For how long?
Again, it varies. So, you know, start small. So you might have 3 exercises that you do, and that might take you 5-10 minutes. So it's not so much about the time as it is about how many exercises you're doing and how many of them. So ideally you'd have a list of, you know, it might be as little as 2, but as much as 5 or 6 exercises, and you might do 3 sets of all of them 8 to 10 times. Okay, so really it depends on a lot of things, and that's why it's really important, you know, to seek the advice of an EP at least just to get you started, particularly with things like your shoulder. You know, you guys are just really prone to overuse and to any injury, so it's really important to find the balance between exercises that are going to strengthen as opposed to just overworking and, you know, having the opposite effect, I guess. But yeah, definitely have an appointment with your EP, or I'll show you how to find one in your area a little bit later. Did anyone have any questions about some strengthening stuff? Is there any, do you guys have weights at home? Some of you said you use the bands. Is there anything else that you guys do to build up your strength? Or any other ideas you have?
Yeah, push lawnmower.
Yep, perfect.
Except I do it with my motor. But I mean, pruning roses and shifting pot plants around and things like that, you end up overdoing it, and next minute you come in with a sore shoulder if you drag things around. But I'm more inclined to overdo it rather than bit by bit.
Rather than underdo it, yeah. And I guess that's a really important thing, Brian, as well, to remember that if you are, you know, moving things and lifting things around your house, that all counts. You know, just because it's not doesn't mean it's not an exercise. So any time that you are engaging in movement, that all counts. Any other questions or comments about that before we move on?
So with these exercises, what you lift them up your head.
Yep.
What sort of do you recommend type of things to do?
What was that, sorry? What weight or what equipment?
Exercises,
Program.
Yep. I find the TheraBands are really good, just because there's varied resistances there. So you can buy a pack of them for $4 and kind of decide which one works for you. And often it's just a matter of you might have 3 or 4 exercises that you do with them a couple of times a week. You can do them watching telly, we call it guilt-free television. So you're, doing your weights above your head or out to the front. Lots and lots of different things that you can do.
Okay, yep. All the best.
So I think the main thing here is too that you don't need fancy equipment. If you've got
Sorry?
that you can fill up to give a bit of weight to them, then they're all really good ideas. Whatever you can find in your pantry, bags of rice, anything. All right. So we'll move on. So cardiovascular activity. So lots and lots of different ways you can increase your heart health. So the guidelines say 10 to 30 minutes. Again, it's just a guide, and any movement better than none. So it's really just about finding something that works for you and trying to find your limit and push yourself just a little bit. So again, this is kind of where you'd use that talk test. If you're able to do, some bicep curls and weights like that, and you're doing it with a light weight and you feel like you could do it absolutely all day, probably time to have someone help you make that a little bit harder. So lots of ways you can increase your cardiovascular fitness. Pushing your wheelchair is the obvious one. It's really good to be able to do that for as long as you need to be able to without becoming out of breath. There's lots of cool equipment out there now. Have you guys seen those arm bikes that Kmart and Big W have? Anyone seen anything like that? They have them at the gyms and stuff as well. But they're really good. I think they're actually advertised as leg pedals.
Coffee grinders.
Yeah, on the picture down there, second from the left. You can put them on the floor and put your feet in them, or you can put them up on a table and you can pedal your arms. So that's a really nice way of getting your arms moving. I know it kind of mimics that wheelchair pushing action, but the difference being you don't have that weight behind it. So because your arms are up here and you can do it quite effortlessly, anything with your arms will get your heart rate and your breathing rate up. And you don't have to do it for long, in a minute. And that's just a really good way of, getting that fitness into your day. You can get those models. They start at $20 from Kmart. The $50 one from Big W is better, but the Big W one just allows you to, it has a resistance changer on it, so you can make it a bit harder if you're doing it to try and get some strength rather than the cardiovascular side of things. Otherwise, there's lots of wheelchair sports out there these days: basketball, rugby, lawn bowls, anything, anything that's out there. Boxing in your chair. If you don't have boxing gloves and a big bag, you can just do the movement with some weights. Really, really lightweight, but just kind of mimic that motion. You don't even have to have weights. You can just do it with your arms, and if you do it for long enough, you'll start to feel that breathing rate up a little bit. Does anyone have any questions about that?
I've got the bag, but I haven't got the gloves.
Are you halfway there?
I'm halfway there.
It's a bit of fun, the boxing.
Right.
All right. So, in addition to that, stretching, really, really important. So, I guess the most important muscle is all these ones that are supporting your shoulder. So for anyone who's propelling their wheelchair themselves, what you'll find is over time your shoulders tend to start to creep in like this, and what that does is just doesn't leave quite as much room for your muscles and your nerves to do what they need to do. So any form of stretching we can get in, whether that's active or assisted by a carer, that's kind of going to push these shoulders back, really, really good. So if you're able to squeeze your shoulder blades tightly together and then kind of drop them down, they're just some good things you can do in the day. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be I've got to set 15 minutes aside in the morning to do my stretches. You can just do them as you can throughout the day. So ideally, we're trying to stretch all your major muscle groups: shoulders, neck, top of the back, holding for anywhere between 15 and 30 seconds, and then ideally doing that twice if you can. So it all depends on kind of how tight your muscles are, if you've got any injuries, things like that we're trying to protect. But some form of stretching routine mixed in with any strengthening or any other movement you can do just helps to build a really nice exercise program that's kind of bringing everything together. Does anyone do their stretches regularly?
Yep.
Yeah. How often would you do them, do you think?
Daily.
Excellent. And they don't take long, do they, Brian?
No, I mean, I've got one wrist muscle that's I fell and tightened it up, so I've got to try and unstretch it. But my arm muscles and whatever, I do that all the time to try and get them to relax at night time because they're that damn stiff.
Yeah. Does anyone else have the same issues?
Yeah, I get a lot of shoulder issues, so I stretch them and exercise them regularly. But I really like that one you've just said. I've just found relief in doing that just now as we're talking.
Yep. I think a good one that someone said to me once was to pretend you've got the winning Tats Lotto ticket in your shoulder blades and you're trying to squeeze it to hold on to the ticket. I think they actually explained it as a $20 note, but I thought the winning lotto ticket might be a bit more incentive to get that squeeze happening.
Be closer to a winning anyhow.
Yeah. So on the next few slides, I've just got some examples of some different stretches. I can send these through to Kelly so you guys can have a look. So as with anything, always chat to your EP, your GP, whoever your main allied health professional is, in getting started with any of this. There's lots of things out there that all of you can do. It's just a matter of finding someone who you can work with in terms of getting creative, some movement. Beautiful. Any questions about the stretching side of things, guys?
If you can send those out, it'd be great.
Yep, beautiful. Okay, so I thought we'd just have a little bit of a chat about keeping your shoulders healthy and preventing, I guess, that overuse. So I think the stats are around 75% of people who use wheelchairs will have some kind of shoulder pain in their life. And when you're trying to use your arms for absolutely everything, it can be really debilitating and really frustrating. So I guess, we're starting to use muscles in a different way than you normally would. So like we've touched on, having a tailored exercise program that's made for you rather than, someone just sending out some stretches and some exercises. Having someone guide you through the exercises and the resistance that's right for you is a really good step in preventing this. But in terms of general things that you can be aware of, is just being careful of your posture throughout the day. So trying not to, I know some people like to sit with their arms crossed. So just trying not to do that all day, because as you can see with my shoulders, what that's doing straight away is bringing them forward. And it's just things that you don't even notice while you're doing it. Like you might have your arms like that because you're cold or because you're anxious or for any reason, but just trying to open the shoulders up as much as you can every now and then throughout the day. Certain things like if you're moving things around your house or you're lifting things, try not to have your arm, try to have the object that you're lifting nice and close to your body so that you're not reaching all the way away and then picking something up heavy with an outstretched arm, because that's just going to put a bit more pressure on the top of your shoulder. And then what we try to do, I guess, is just lots of exercises that will strengthen the muscles that are going to naturally pull you into that, I don't want to say better posture, but more neutral position, I guess, and lots of stretching through the front. So even if that is just someone pressing on your shoulders to try and bring them back, just lots of little things like that throughout the day. Okay. Really important, if you guys start to notice any niggles in your shoulders or any aches, please see a physio or an EP straight away, because often it might just be, someone drawing your awareness to the way that you're sitting in your chair, or it might just be a particular exercise that you need to do for a few days to feel a little bit better. A bit like a headache, sometimes you think, oh, it'll go away, it'll get better. But if it gets worse, it can be really frustrating for you to try and do everything you need to do that heals. So really good to be on top of it early. So we just want someone who can appropriately modify your exercise to make sure that we're not overusing that shoulder. Okay. Is there any questions about that?
Yeah, I'd like to know how all these other guys are going to do it. I've been taking notes. How are everyone else going to do it if they haven't taken notes? They must have a phenomenal memory.
I mentioned at the start that we did record the meeting. Sorry?
Sorry, what were you saying?
We did record the meeting, so if you guys are okay with that, so we'll be sending out the recording for those who couldn't make it today. We'll also be sending out some notes as well, along with Kendall's presentation.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree. I think everyone here learned a lot and was reminded a lot about the importance of exercising and stretching and posture as well. I think we've forgotten a bit about that.
Yeah, good point.
I guess. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I know a lot of the right things you're meant to do, but I don't do it. It's one of those things where if I tell somebody, I tell them, you should be doing this and that. But when it comes to myself, you don't sort of do it. Things like pushing your shoulder backs and stretching and all that sort of stuff. They're the things that I don't do, and I know I'm meant to be doing it. Yeah,
it's hard. It's like, it's easy for me to say, even I tell people to exercise all day, but then sometimes I go home and think, oh, I can't be bothered, like I'm just,
that's right.
Yeah.
So how are you going to go about it? Because, this has been a fantastic session today, as we all acknowledge. So would you, I don't know, go to someone who can help fire you up? Because in the end, you've got the same problem unless you do something about it. And I don't like to hear that, you can't get further, because in the end, it's going to be really hurting you and your physical health. Would you go and see someone who can, get you stirred up or what?
Yeah, definitely. I think the good thing now is, like I was saying before, we are doing a lot of video conferencing now. So there's so much potential for, if you find that motivation is an issue, a lot of people tend to, if you've made an appointment, you'll often stick to it. If you wanted to have someone monitor an exercise program for you, you'd have the option at the moment, depending on where you're living and restrictions and things like that, but seeing someone face to face, just so they can assess you better. But then you've got that option of doing things like this over telehealth or Zoom regularly, where we can actually guide you through an exercise session over the laptop, and you can, we can watch you do your exercises and say, oh, maybe change this. They're the kind of things that are available, and you can set that up. You could do that twice a week if you wanted to, depending on who you were seeing. But I know that Ballarat Health, that's something that we've been doing a lot of since about April. It's really all been, we're not using Zoom, but it's a platform very similar to this, and it'd just be myself and you, and you'd have your exercise equipment or your carer, whatever you've got available to you, and we just do a session together like we normally would in the gym.
So next month, Naz will be motivated.
Pardon?
Naz will be motivated next month. I'll say to him, what Naz to change everything around? He'll say, I pull out and I did this.
I think I've got a problem with motivation plus a few other things as well. So it's not just motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you. I'm not trying to be smart or things like that. I just think, I know how you go, how you feel.
Yeah, I think the important thing is if you can really identify what is stopping you, what is your main barrier, and then just try and come up with a strategy to overcome that. And if it is motivation, you know, which is a big thing for so many people, often just having someone to do the exercise with, and you might say, we're going to do this together, 2 o'clock on a Monday. When it gets to 1 o'clock and you think, oh, I really don't want to do it, but I've got to because Peter's going, like, it keeps you a bit more accountable. You feel like you don't want to let them down, so you drag yourself along, and before you know it, you've done it, and you might feel a little bit better.
Exactly right. I think that's a best point, Kendall. Being accountable, so finding some way of keeping accountable. Either telling someone this is what you're going to be doing and then following it up, or you do it with a friend, or like you say, you make an appointment somewhere, so you have to turn up.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And look, that's why I think if even if you feel like you've got all the equipment at home and you've had an exercise program in the past and you haven't been doing it, book in with an EP, because sometimes, I might spend an hour with someone just talking to them about their barriers and how to overcome it. But once you find a way to overcome it, you're fine. But sometimes just the process of talking about it or having someone, shed some more ideas can be really valuable as well. And I just want to show you one more slide, if I can figure out how to do it. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so these is just some tips for success with your program. I just want to make it bigger. Okay, so the first one there is to just be realistic. So if you're not doing any exercise at the moment, don't look at those guidelines and say, oh God, I've got to do something every day. That's overwhelming for me. Just do something more than you have been doing. If you're going to do 1 day a week, awesome. Like I said, it's about creating a habit. 1 day will turn into 2. And before you know it, you'll be meeting those guidelines. Just building up gradually. There's no points for, working yourself so hard that you then can't wheel your chair around for the rest of the day, or you can't do what you need to do. Any movement better than none, and just start slow, really gradually build it up to make sure you're safe. I think the absolute most important one is to find something that you enjoy. Activities you enjoy doing aren't hard to do. And it's less of an effort. So exercise, it doesn't have to be in the gym. I admit it can be a painful thought. So the more you can enjoy it, the easier it will be. If you can, and an EP can help you with this, just keep some change in your program. No one likes to do the same thing over and over and over. You might have a program made up for you and you're bored in a month's time. Time to change. Keep things exciting a little bit as much as you can. Setting goals can be really good to help your motivation as well. Often your improvements are so slight that you don't realise. Those small increases in your fitness where you might have wheeled to Safeway and back and not be out of breath. But if you don't have that written down, you don't always realise that, 3 months ago, that's the point you were at. So I think if you've got goals in mind or things you'd like to be able to do better physically, it's really good to write those down and just assess every month or so, and your EP can help you with that. Exercise with friends, make it fun. And I think we're really lucky now that we've got Zoom, because, you guys can tee up things like this and you can do things together. you know, even if you aren't doing your own separate exercises, just being able to have a bit of a chat and a yarn while you're doing it just makes it less painful. And then these are just some local services. I have to admit, I am from Ballarat, but I'm not actually from Ballarat. So this is what I find. So Ballarat, that's where I work, at the Queen Elizabeth Centre. So we offer short-term programs for outpatients. Pre-COVID, we had both gym and hydrotherapy, and most of those sessions were run in groups. So there might have been 5 to 6 people, but you were all doing your own program. So you could kind of be as social or as independent as you liked within that group. At the moment, we're not running groups, and I don't think we will be for the foreseeable future. Our service at the moment is purely telehealth, so much like Zoom, just over video. We do offer for people to come in for their assessment just for the sake of, you know, meeting in person and being able to assess you a bit more thoroughly. But after that, the follow-up is over phone or the video conferencing. Ballarat Community Health, they have multiple sites, Lucas, Sebastopol and Wendouree. They just offer a bit more of an ongoing program. So again, I'm not sure if they're doing the video conferencing or not, but when things are running normally, they have a gym that you can go and use as often as you like. I think it's about $6 a week, similar to that. Neuro Rehab is actually a Melbourne-based company, but they're doing home visits that extend as far as Ballarat. So if you can self-refer, I've got the link to the website there or the phone number to give them a ring. If you have NDIS funding, you can use that. Otherwise, you can access sessions through Medicare. So if you have a, what's called an EPC plan through your GP, you can get some subsidised visits where the physio actually comes to your house. They bring all the equipment in the trunk of their car and they do a session with you for half an hour, however long you want it to go for. But that can be set up on a regular basis. And they are actually opening a clinic in Ballarat mid next year, which will give the potential for the home visits to extend out more into that regional area. So I would say anywhere in that hour radius of Ballarat, they'll be trying to service. I'm not even going to try and say that next one, but that's Melton and Bacchus Marsh area.
Well, Robert will say it.
The Warwick, that's all it is. That's how you pronounce it, Warwick, isn't it?
I knew it. Oh, is it?
Right.
Oh, that's a lot easier than I was thinking in my head.
Right, is that right?
Yep.
Well, I would have definitely said that wrong. So they've got centre-based and home visits with a physio. There's some wheelchair basketball at the badminton stadium in Ballarat, sorry. That runs on a Monday night. I'm assuming that doesn't run at the moment, but once we've come out the other side of COVID, fingers crossed that that still runs. And I've just got the contact there for you. The Wendouree Archery Club looks pretty exciting if you're into a bit of archery, trying to work on your coordination and your aim, but also a bit of arm strength. And they kind of cater for all abilities as well. But if you're not in the Ballarat region, that link there, the essa.org.au, if you actually click on that link, you can type in your suburb and it will come up with all the EPs in your area. So you can actually give them a call, find out, you know, if they're still working and what services they provide. I think everyone's a bit hesitant to have people in their homes at the moment, but if telehealth is something they're offering, I think that's a really easy way for you to have an appointment that you've got to stick to get your exercise in. But if you don't like it, you've lost nothing. You don't have to continue. Get rid of that.
That neuro rehab, Kendall, where's that based in Melbourne? Is that?
They've actually got a few clinics. So they, yeah, I used to work there. They had Deer Park was their first one, and now they've got clinics in Tullamarine, Thomastown, just opened up in Werribee as well.
Okay.
But they're the main ones. So the Deer Park clinic is the one that offers the visits to Ballarat.
Any better Melbourne?
What's that, sorry?
Any better Melbourne? You said you're not from Ballarat.
Oh no, it's a bit of a long. I actually live in Portland, right down on the beach. So I was commuting from Geelong. My partner's an Amber when they moved him down to Portland. So here we are. A little bit far away. Did anyone have any questions or anything else they wanted to have a chat about?
I think it's like really easy to get lazy and, you know, fall into bad habits. So I don't know what people do, but even doesn't have to be in this environment, but just have a program for yourself. I think it's really important. You know, I mean, this is me saying what to do and not doing it myself again, but you know, just going around the block or something, you know, having something that's going to commit you to doing something on a regular basis. And when we say doing something, it doesn't have to be big. It's just doing something.
That's it.
Now, I think that's what you started off with, Kendall. Saying exercise isn't, you know, doesn't have to be physical. It could be just an activity
That's right.
of anything. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I'm really motivated. As soon as we finish up here, I'm going to go around the block a few times.
Excellent. Excellent. Please do that.
Get
I
Kelly
should do that too.
at the same time.
Do it at the same time, was it?
You to dance as you're going along. You can do a bit of dancing and, you know, prancing as you go around with him.
But we can just have a group phone call and make sure that everyone does some sort of exercise in their own house.
If I don't answer, I'm pushing around the block, okay?
Not sure about that.
You don't use your mobile.
Are you going to do something?
What was that, Robert?
All this exercise made me sleepy.
The thought of it.
I'm going to feed the chooks. What are you going to be doing?
Who, me?
Peter,
I said I'm going to go around the block as soon as this.
Peter, what are you going to do?
Oh, Peter.
Me, I'm stretching my shoulders. I'm getting just that relief from putting my shoulders back, putting my chin back, just stretching that whole, holding on to that Tats Lotto ticket.
Yeah, that was a really good tip.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'll send the PowerPoint and just some take-home messages through to Kelly, and then she can distribute.
Okay.
And yeah, and if you have any further questions, my number's on that slide, so feel free to give me a call.
Thank you so much for what you did. It's been a wonderful day.
No
Yeah, thanks
worries
for
at
that.
all.
It was informative. It was
Very
good.
much.
Yeah, really good.
Be back
No
to
worries, guys.
we've had, isn't it? What do you think, Kelly?
Sorry?
The best we've had, one of the best sessions we've had, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. I think you're one of the first guest speakers we've had since doing online Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah, one of the first.
yeah, cool.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Awesome. No worries, guys. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, all the best.
Right, Kendall, thanks.
Vital, supporting people with spinal cord injury. It's about life.